Okay, so fast forward a few years, few years after my service, it was time to move on, get out of the military. Like I mentioned, I served 10 years in active duty. 2014, that was my time to get out. I knew right from the start that a 20-year career for me in the military will be probably a long shot because once again I didn't start too young, and I knew that at some point I would be in a little bit of a disadvantage. So, but I went in and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna serve as much as I can, as long as I have the support of my family, my wife, and we did, serve 10 years. I was like, okay, time to get out. Unfortunately, financially speaking, probably it wasn't a good time. I was not ready financially speaking. So, um, getting out, I struggle. I struggle for a few years. Um, I didn't have like a good solid job lineup on it or anything. So for a little bit, I find myself working like, you know jobs, different types of jobs, and some of them were like okay jobs, other ones were not so okay, and I was constantly looking for that you know that chance, to prove myself again in a different way. So, um, it's tough. It's I can see why now. Some of my brothers struggle when they get out of the military, because just to give you an idea or perspective, the military is any branch, Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps. It's you can see that has an island, right? There we go again, islander, right? So yeah, it's an island, and you are in that island. You are surrounded together with all your brothers and sisters, and you together we go places, we fight, we have each other's back until it's time to get out. When you get out, all of the sudden, imagine like taking everyone away from that island, and you're just left all by yourself. Now it's only you in that little island. So that's the feeling, like, so, and it can be haunting, that feeling of like loneliness, even though that you have friends outside of the military, obviously, and whatnot, but sometimes you cannot, especially the longer than you stay in the military, the more, I don't like to use the term like brainwash, but your mindset change, a lot. You acquire, different perspectives, and sometimes, unless that you don't go through the same process, like a basic training and and serving in the military, going overseas, fighting a war, sometimes like, for years and years. It's hard for someone to understand, and but anyways, we appreciate the civilian support, that, I mean, but unfortunately it's hard for someone, unless that you've been in the boots of a service member. It's hard to understand, to anyone. So that's the feeling, that like I said, the best way for me to explain it, it's like all of the sudden you're in this awesome little island having, a good time, and then all of the sudden they take everyone away, and you're just left all alone by yourself. So it's scary. It could be scary at times. So if you don't have a plan, a solid plan getting out, you might want to reconsider, before getting out. Start out early. Like, if you know that, okay, this is it, this is my last commitment or whatever, at least start like at least a year out. Is recommended. That's standard, pretty much. I believe in all the branches. So I struggle for a little bit, and but thank God, I have a good support, a network, like church, my family first and foremost, my wife. Um, but again, if you don't have that kind of support or network, yeah, I can see why my brothers are failing, on transitioning sometimes, and unfortunately, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the stories, about soldiers um, not surviving basically, years after that. So it's hard. So the only reason I want to put this out is so if a veteran happen to see this one day, and a couple of years down the road, I trust me, brother. It's not only you. We all go through this, but it can be done. You just have to look for support. You just don't isolate yourself in your room, and start drinking or whatever. Just go out and just have a have a life. There's life after the military. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyways, struggle for a little bit, but eventually I kind of made it. I'm still working on it, but of course, I'm finally again, doing something that I really like. It's related, obviously, but I'm not. I'm not in uniform anymore. I'm working on a different capacity as a civilian. I'm helping, supporting the good fight. That's all that I can say. Um, but yeah, you struggle because, like I say, one day when you're in the military, you are at some point you are trusted with like very important and sometimes like sensitive information. You're in charge, or you're trusted with equipment that is like worth thousands and in some cases millions of dollars. That was my case. At some point, I was in charge, or trusted with like thousands and thousands of dollars on equipment, and then all of the sudden, when you get out, not anymore. You're doing something that, again, there's no you. I'm not above any job. That, I mean, that's not that I'm trying to say. But sometimes, especially the longer than you stay in the service, the more than you go up in the ladder, the more trusted with responsibilities and equipment, and then all of the sudden, when you find yourself just working like on a random job, that nobody really cares if you show. I mean, I care to show up, every day, but that you're just doing a meaningless job. That if it's not you, someone else will do it. So that's kind of hard. That's kind of tough, especially when you develop this kind of like a alpha male mentality and an attitude. That. And I know that nowadays that's kind of like, oh no, alpha male, like toxic masculinity, and guess what? That's what you need to survive in the military, in any branch. If you're going to war to fight in a foreign country, you need that mentality, because guess what? I'm sorry to and it might sound rough, but yeah, they don't care about your feelings in other countries. They don't care how sensitive or whatnot. You have to be tough, or at least display that kind of like toughness, because if not, they will eat you alive. That's all that I'm gonna say on that. Um, Again, if you're not in the military, you will not understand. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be rude or whatever. It's the truth. It's out there. But you can struggle. To adjust back in the civilian world. So, but again, to my brothers, that if you recently have separated from service and you find yourself struggling, keep it up, keep your chin high, and like I say, there is life after the military. You just have to keep pushing and pursuing it. Okay, let's try to you know communicate, create a network, or something. Don't isolate yourself. That's the worst thing that you can do. Okay.